Truth is, I thought it mattered. I thought that
money
mattered. But does it bollocks? Not compared to how people matter.
Welcome, Mention, and other fine folks, to the Someday Dispatch of the Black Letter, where we contemplate thoughts worth thinking. This video probably not going to be for everyone, but I wanted to put it out there anyway. As you know, I'm trying to think thoughts that make life worth living and help me achieve my best life. And so part of that is things that are interesting and informative to me in how I'm trying to improve my life on a daily basis. As some of you might know, I am vegan. I have been vegan for over 30 years now, and it's a big part of what informs my life, obviously. And so today we'd spend some time on this video, just a short bit of time, give you an overview of some of the reasons why I think more folks should be considering a plant-based diet, or at least introducing way more plants and plant foods into their diets currently. We've spoken about how we're trying to make sense of the upside down world right now. And just to give you an overview, I read a book called Diet for a New America by John Robbins, who is the son of one of the founding members of the Baskin-Robbins ice cream business. He left that business, he became vegan and wanted to make a better impact in the world. And so he went and lived in Vancouver, just off the coast of Vancouver in Canada, on an island there for a while, I think out in Salt Spring Island, somewhere around there, and with his son and wife, and tried to live a more minimalist, sort of Thoreau type of existence. Anyway, that book was very interesting, and it sort of gave an overview of the benefits of veganism or plant-based diet from the perspective of the environment, the human health aspect, and of course the ethics. It was the ethics that I was most appreciative of. I felt that if it was unnecessary to kill animals in order to remain healthy and to live a good life, then I didn't want to have any part of that. So that's how I sort of became vegan in a nutshell. And I've had tremendous improvements in my health since then and continue to thrive 30 years later. The only ongoing supplements I take is vitamin B12, and I occasionally will take some algal-based, and that's algae-based omega-3s, and sometimes a little bit of vitamin D, especially up here in Canada in the winter months. I don't get a lot of sun, but other than that, I don't take much supplements either. I also don't smoke or drink, so I think that's also part of a healthy diet. But anyway, enough about me. I just want to share with you some of the arguments why I think eating more plant-based foods can be beneficial. Of course, as we talk about on this channel, we're trying to live our best lives and pay down debt, increase our savings, and to find ways of improving ourselves. And I know in the United States of America, healthcare is very expensive. So, going on to a more plant-based eating plan can be exceptionally helpful there. You'll have less issues with your health generally. You'll be using the healthcare system less often, I'm sure, for most of us. And that can increase your savings substantially, I'm sure. Of course, now be aware that there are great and powerful groups, lobbying groups, that don't want a lot of this information out there. So you will find a lot of conflicting information if you start looking about veganism or plant-based diets and health, and there'll be a lot of misinformation out there to suggest that you can be just as healthy eating a standard American diet. Now, I'm not to suggest that you can't be healthy eating minimal animal products, but I think, as we'll see, perhaps maybe no more than once a week or so. Nevertheless, I've just found it easier to get rid of it altogether. And of course, being an ethical perspective for my veganism, of course, I'm not interested in eating animal products at all. So bear in mind that the animal agribusiness is huge, and it has a lot of money, and it lobbies government all the time. And there's a lot of information put out there, a lot more smoke and mirrors as well, as we've been talking about recently from a financial perspective. So just bear that in mind as we go through this. Please try and keep an open mind and do your own research. None of this is health advice. None of this is financial advice. None of this is actually just advice at all. It's just my opinions I'm sharing, something hopefully that'll get you thinking about, and you can make your own decisions as you like. This first video is from Dr. Michael Greger, and he has some great videos on his website. Links, of course, down below in the description, so check it out. But this one he's talking about uprooting the leading causes of death, and so we'll just listen to a little bit of it here right now.
These are the top 15 causes of death, the top 15 reasons Americans die. And a plant-based diet can help prevent nearly all of them, can help treat more than half of them, and in some cases even reverse the progression of disease, including our top 3 killers. Now, there are drugs that can help too, right? You can take one drug to treat cholesterol every day for the rest of your life, another drug for blood sugars, a few more pills for your blood pressure. The same diet, though, does it all, right? It's not like, one diet for this and then a different diet for this, right? One diet to rule them all.
And he's talking about a plant-based diet there, of course, obviously. Here's another little clip we'll look at, another video he did, I think, a couple of years later after that first one we saw, and this is about preventing and treating the most common diseases with diet. Again, he's talking about plant-based diet. These are long videos, folks, around an hour each, but one of the benefits in YouTube is you can choose the playback speed here, so sometimes you can increase it by a quarter or 50%, and it can help you get the nuts and bolts of the information, but at a much quicker clip. So I would encourage you to really review these documents and do your own research if you're interested in improving your health. If your health is fantastic, you have no concerns, then of course don't worry about it. But there are other reasons as well, as we'll look at in a moment.
If you look at 4 of the major dietary quality scoring systems, which have all been associated with extending lifespan, less heart disease, less cancer, they all share only 4 things in common. What are those 4 things? More fruit, more vegetables, more whole grains, more nuts and beans. They're all built around a common core of diets rich in plant foods. We're of the opposite food patterns, Western diet, higher risk. So we need to optimize the food environment to support whole grains, vegetables, fruit, and plant-based sources of protein. Taking the diet quality indexes to the logical conclusion, the most plant-based diet comes out the most healthy diet. But again, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I mean, we now have evidence that simple advice to increase the consumption of plant foods and decrease the consumption of animal foods actually has a survival advantage. And boy, do we need it in terms of...
Okay, so there you go. There's just a bit of an overview of some of the benefits from a health perspective, particularly about how a plant-based diet or a predominantly plant-based diet can help you in your health. But there are other reasons too, and we'll look at it too. There's environmental reasons, of course. Study vegan diets, environmental impact up to 84% less. According to a recent study published by In The Lancet, one of the most prestigious and oldest peer-reviewed medical journals, eating a vegan diet has less of an environmental impact than one that includes meat, dairy, and eggs. The new research concluded that a vegan diet produces a 42 to 84% lower burden on the environment than a Mediterranean-style diet or the diet recommended by the US government. University of Oxford found that ditching animal products could reduce your food carbon footprint by 73%. Similarly, a recent report from Farm Animal Investigation Investment Risk and Return found that the meat industry was jeopardizing the Paris Climate Agreement by failing to properly report its emissions. And folks, agribusiness is huge, and they, of course, want to be focused on the profit, and they will abuse their workers, they'll abuse the animals, and it's all about the bottom line. And of course, when you're dealing with sentient beings, that causes problems. There's also for the human rights or the workers' rights justice element of it. I think that vegans often overlook, but it's an important one. Why feel sorry for slaughterhouse workers? While it may be hard for kind people to feel sympathy for someone who is paid to kill animals, many slaughterhouse employees become mentally unwell, even suicidal, not long after working at the ghastly places. And workers often become sick or are injured because of the unsafe and unsanitary working conditions of these gruesome facilities. Occupational Safe and Healthy Administration records show that about 17 severe accidents occur each month in U.S. slaughterhouses. Approximately 2 slaughterhouse workers have a limb cut off by slaughterhouse machines every week. It's not uncommon to hear of workers losing an eye, fracturing their fingers, or suffering from head trauma. OSHA indicates that U.S. slaughterhouse employees are 3 times more likely to sustain a serious injury than the average American worker. People who work in pork and beef plants are nearly 7 times more likely to develop repetitive strain injuries. And I didn't want to show you the image up here because it's not pleasant. And of course, there's an example. So there's environmental benefits to eating more plant-based. Certainly, workers' rights issues can come into it. These are low-paid jobs, often of poor immigrants. And as we just saw, there's a greater chance of injury for these folks. And so if we can help minimize the intake of these products, we can help minimize perhaps the injury that some of these folks will be experiencing. Of course, some of you might have heard of Caldwell Esselstyn. He's a doctor, and this is a article he put out. I'll just read the first paragraph here. Although heart disease is still the leading cause of death in the United States for men and for women, it can be prevented and even reversed. In my 21-year Cleveland Clinic nutritional study, I arrested and reversed advanced coronary artery disease in patients who had already undergone bypasses and angioplasties. Some had even been told by their cardiologist that they had less than a year to live. Of course, all these links will be down below, folks, if you'd like to look at them further. I'm just giving you a very quick overview. Dr. McDougall is someone to take a visit at. He's also a plant-based physician and believes in a low-fat plant-based diet. Now, I'm not as convinced of a low-fat plant-based diet. I think keeping saturated fat low and eliminating trans fats are important. But I think unless you have some chronic health issues, I don't know, and I wouldn't necessarily think that you need to eliminate all oils or high-fat foods. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, that's another one for good health-based scientific information about plant-based diets and the benefits. And then we'll just talk a little briefly here about the blue zone diets. Why do people in blue zones live longer than the rest of the world? People who live in blue zones eat a 95% plant-based diet. A number of studies have found that these areas, the blue zones, contain extremely high rates of nonagenarians and centenarians, which are people who live over 90 and 100. And of course, folks, it's not just about how long you live, but of course the quality of those years that arguably is more important. And a lot of these folks are living well and healthfully into their 90s and 100s with full mobility, even partaking in day-to-day activities and gardening and things of that nature. And it's not just genetics. Interestingly, genetics probably only account for 20 to 30% of longevity. And here's sort of generally what some of the attributes that they think continue to contribute to their longevity and health. One thing common to blue zones is that those who live there primarily eat a 95% plant-based diet, as we alluded to earlier. Although most groups are not strict vegetarians, they only tend to eat meat around 5 times per month. So you don't have to necessarily give up your meat, but I think having meat or animal products more than once a week or so does seem to be somewhat detrimental to a long, healthy life, potentially. And of course, I've just found it easier to eliminate it. I did that with alcohol too, as there was a period, about 20 years ago or so, I think, that I was starting to abuse alcohol for a whole bunch of different reasons, and I decided to just eliminate it. And I've found that to be a terrific choice that I made. So there you have it, folks. Just a quick brief overview of why veganism. I just wanted to share that with you. I know sometimes these topics can be political, but it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Veganism and plant-based living lifestyles and choices are found in both blue and red folks, left and right-leaning folks. It's just there's a variety of different reasons why. We've talked about workers' rights. We've talked about the environment. Of course, for me, ethics. Animals are sentient beings and they feel suffering and pain, and so I don't want to be part of that. So you can help eliminate that or greatly reduce it. Very healthy. It's the only diet, a low-fat vegan diet or plant-based diet. It's the only diet that's been shown to reverse heart disease currently. And it's very beneficial against many cancers, diabetes, of course, amongst other problems, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis can help as well. So if you're interested, there's a lot of links down below in the descriptions. You can take your time and have a look at them. And I think, at the end of the day, if you just give yourself a month and try it out, that will be the proof is in the pudding, right, so to speak. So you try it out for yourself and see how you feel. And there's lots of resources out there to help you. So just want to share that with you. And then just we'll go into the online oracle, see what it has to say. I wanted to ask a question related to this, so I thought I would ask the 8-ball economist, should people eat more plant-based food? Let's see what it has to say. It is certain. There you go, folks. So even our online oracle is on board with helping you increase your intake of plant-based foods. And one other additional thing I should mention, it is cheaper if you're choosing not to buy a ton of different processed plant-based vegan foods, of course, which is not necessarily healthy either. So you want to eat primarily, as much as possible, a whole food plant-based diet. It is cheaper, definitely. And so I think it's beneficial to the wallet as well and finances. Thanks so much for joining me for this discussion. I know it's a challenging topic for a lot of folks. I think it pushes buttons for people, and I understand that. I wasn't born vegan. I lived the first 20 years of my life as a omnivore and on a normal standard American style diet. My parents are historically British, so similar eating patterns that way. We ate a lot of meat growing up in South Africa, of course, braais and barbecues, those kind of things. But it can be done, and I know it has benefits. You just have to give it a try. I know it's difficult because socially it can be awkward with your family and friends having to explain that. But maybe on those occasions, those are the occasions when you make an exception. But anyway, I'm not here to convince you either way. I'm just sharing what I've done and why I find it helpful and why I think it's a beneficial aspect to living your best life is to eat more plant-based food. So thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you. Please stay healthy, take care of yourselves, be kind out there, and remember, Dom Spiro, Sparrow.